Hello to you, amazing magnetic beings of frequency. I'm joining you today for the first time in a long time, and this is pre-recorded. So although it's a premiere, I will be down there. I'm waving above, I'm waving upstairs as you're watching this, and I thank you in advance for all the donations, all the support, all your ongoing love, because I'm mostly focusing on donation-based work right now, so you're highly appreciated. The reason I decided to do this pre-recordedly is because I'm still in the thick of my move. And as you guys know, it's important to feel settled. It's important to have stable legs before you can fly, before you can bilocate. And so I'm still in the middle of my move. To say that, and this is just on a human note, to say that this process has been lengthy and quite unpredictable would be an understatement. But I'm handling it with grace. And I wanted to drop in to reconnect with you all today to let you know that I'm still here. If anything, my entire move is happening so that I can expand and be of better service to you. So the first thing I'd like to do today is to give you a rundown, like a quick recap on what being a dot is, because I recognize there are a lot of new people on my channel and they don't understand what being a dot is. And since I've decided to put my webinars on hold, even though you can still buy that webinar, Be a Dot, on vimeo.com/feelgoodlife, I will give you a rundown. Now, before you watch this video, I would highly suggest that you watch Be a Dot Beginnings, which is free on YouTube. So you can go back into my archives and find Be a Dot Beginnings. Being a dot started one night when I was playing video games with my friend Rex. He's my best friend in the world, and we were being very funny and very facetious, and I said, I don't live my life as a line, I live my life as a dot. I equated the line to being under the governance of time. So when we think linearly, and we're not operating from the genius self, I've been calling it the genius self rather than the higher self. I also like to call it the original self. But my guides came in the other night while I was meditating, and they're like, it's the genius self, it's you accessing that infinite stream of intelligence and ingenuity. So I was with Rex one night and I said, I live my life as a dot. I'm not a line anymore. Because when we operate linearly, we're operating third dimensionally, and we're not operating from that higher self aspect, from the genius self or from the original self. The original self is never in a hurry. The original self is untethered. The original self doesn't feel a need to make plans with people left and right, because the original self understands that it's everywhere all the time, and it's trying to get us to synchronize with it. How can we do this? By starting to listen to the light body from moment to moment to moment. I call it being a surfer of the now. You're surfing the waves of the now. It is a quantum teaching, and so I'll give you a bit of a synopsis as it relates to that as well. So, Feel Good, Mr. Dot, that name came about because I live my life as a dot. Everyone will tell you I don't book sessions in advance. If you went to my website right now, you can't book me. When I started living as a dot, the prime reason why I started doing that is because I no longer wanted to be in the dark or oblivious to certain programs that I was running through my operating system. You do not know how conditioned you are until you learn how to say no and yes to yourself. So this was me making a vow to myself that I would put my spirit first, and I would start to entrain to this higher frequency or cultivate a deeper bond with my higher self so that it can become me, right? So what we're doing in this physical form is we are cultivating a relationship with the higher self, because what the higher self is wanting to do is to come forward. It wants to become embodied by you. It wants to become you. But there will always be separation as long as you're being non-compliant with its demands. You're being non-compliant with its instruction manual. So the higher self, your angels, your guides, they all work collaboratively to get you on board with them. So the idea is to anchor in more and more and more of the light that you already are, but that wasn't able to fit in this body because your DNA was degraded, and to bring the DNA back online as we usher more of this light in. That light is an intelligence. It's a pure source of intelligence. It is your genius self. And what your genius self is attempting to do is to become fully embodied by you in this physical form. This way you become omniscient, omnipotent within this physical body. Now, this may not happen in one incarnation, but it will happen the more that you dedicate yourself, because then you start to find different portals in your body, or you find different portals in your auric field that connect you to more information. So we are 12th dimensional beings. Our DNA was degraded to a 2-strand, a double helix. And what we're here to do is to start to bring online all of that dormant DNA so that we can start to experience ourselves as the spiritual beings that we are, but within this physical form. So when my guides ask me, hey, Phil, we need you to completely deprogram you. We're going to ask that you stop planning anything with anyone. We really want to bring to the light everything that's been hidden from you, everything that's in your blind spot. So I decided to live as a dot. A dot means I'm no longer operating linearly. I'm operating quantumly. What does this mean? It means that I'm flowing from moment to moment. Okay? Now, this does not at all mean that I don't plan. It's a different form of planning. It's an etheric planning. It's a non-physical planning. It is you getting everything out of the way, you cutting out all the noise, you cutting out all the static, so that you can now interact with all of your other selves. Sorry, I just saw my belly. So you can interact with all of your other dimensional selves. All right, what are your dimensional selves? They are other versions of you that are sitting on different timelines, meaning on different versions of this now. Okay? It's just that when you operate linearly, you don't see that. You think of it as like a past, present, future. They are other dimensional selves that are operating or sitting on different timelines, which are other versions of the now. This can be your extraterrestrial self. It can be your angelic self. It can be your future human self. It can be a past human self. It can also be all the different offshoots of all the decisions you didn't make, but that still went on their own trajectory to have their own experience. So everything already exists. Everything that was, is, and will be is already available to you now. Okay, so from one perspective, we are creating, right? Because we have a DNA that we've never had before. We have these physical bodies that we've never had before. In another life, you might have had one tiny difference in your system. So you as a physical being are unique. So we're creating from that perspective. But from another perspective, God source is going to experience every and anything that you can imagine because it's source. It doesn't leave any blind spots behind. Humans have blind spots. Humans have blind spots. But the God within us, the divine within us, the source within us knows all. So the reason why I started living as a dot is because I wanted to tune out all of the noise. I wanted to drown it out because it was gunking me up. And your pineal gland is something that is highly, highly technologically advanced. But the thing is, it's also connected to your subconscious. So if you make plans with people all the time, if you have all these obligations, then what's happening is at a subconscious level, at a subliminal level, you're constantly getting bombarded by other thought forms. Let me give you an example of a thought form. A thought form is when someone is obsessed with you, and I'm taking it to an extreme, I'm exaggerating it. When they're obsessed with you, and throughout your day, you can feel them in your vibrational field. They're there, they're almost like in your mind. That's because they're thinking of you incessantly. They're thinking of you incessantly. And so the thoughts that they're having about you, that they're projecting onto you, are being received by you. What does this do? It causes your subconscious to always be active, to always fight things off. Okay? You may be aware of this, or you may not be aware of this, but it's happening. It's kind of like when people watch TV. I watch TV too, by the way. There's nothing wrong with Netflix and chilling, but I do limit my intake because there are certain subliminal programs that you will receive whether you think you are or not. And that's my point here. So your mind, it's constantly getting inundated with all this external information, and you're not able to fully interface with your other selves because there's all this stuff in the way. You can think of them as bricks that are in the way. You could think of it as gunk. You can think of it as tar. But they're thought forms that you're inviting in because you're making plans with everyone. And when you do that, you're bundling up, meaning you're creating all this emotional bondage with them. And when you have emotional bondage with people, that's why I tell people, I usually dissuade people from fellowship. Ooh, let's find community. Let's find community. That's a recipe for disaster. Because now you're going to become overly dependable on someone or overly reliant on someone else. And what that causes you guys to do is you create this telepathic network, which is cool from one viewpoint. Like back in the day, I would have said, oh my God, we're telepathic. We should learn how to communicate with each other. But we have so much more availability now in terms of cosmic intelligence, in terms of other beings, Pleiadians, Arcturians, Sirians, Orions. We have so much available to us that telepathy with another human, to me, is mostly, for the most part, unless you're a master. But if you're a master, again, you're not going to play in this game. You're not going to participate in the linear living. You're going to live a vibrational existence. So most of the people who have bondage with each other and are exchanging or transmitting thoughts to one another are 4D, meaning these thoughts are usually puppeteered by astral beings. The astral realm is in the fourth dimension. So anytime you think about someone all the time, twin flame, soulmate, friend, why aren't they calling me? When will they call me? What's my next move? What's my purpose? All of these thoughts are very, very limiting, okay? They belong to the fourth dimension. When you start to transcend the fourth dimension through pureness, through this vibrational existence of holding your universe's hand and not planning anything, meaning that you're gonna, because you went so far left into the ego your entire life, you were so conditioned, you were so programmed, okay? Because you were instilled with all these limiting beliefs, we have to counter that. We have to counterbalance that. How do we do this? We go the opposite direction. Instead of always planning and instead of always saying yes when we actually want to say no, we start living our truth. We start living our truth. So because we went so far left for a while, we have to go far right so that we can see what's hidden in the left. What's in our blind spot, what we're not able to access. Now, when I started living as a dot, it became very apparent to me that I was in bondage, even though I thought I wasn't. Okay, I had been meditating 7 years, 8 years, but when I started telling people I don't plan things in advance, their jaw would drop all the way to the floor. They're like, what do you mean? How do you live? How do you survive? What do you do? Now, the be a dot is customizable. So I understand 100% that some of you are parents. Some of you are at a 9-to-5 job. So that's part of your dot. That's something that you've created as a creator. The being a dot is mostly about minimizing your sense of obligation toward other people. It's about you living your truth and creating as much space as you can within your mind, right? Rather than getting attacked all the time by these thought forms, creating as much space as you can, freeing up storage so that you can start to communicate with your other timelines. So some people have said, well, I just call that living in the now. That's not being a dot. That's an aspect of being a dot. You're living in the now, but it's more than that. It's about you going quantum. The dot is like a UFO that will take you to New Earth 5D in no time, but you have to commit yourself. Okay, you have to decide, I'm going to put my spirit first. I'm tired of saying, let's see what happens next week. I'm tired of saying, oh, why don't we check in next week and see if we should do dinner? No, this is about you trusting your universe to the degree where you don't feel a need to insert all of these things in your life as a means to satisfy your ego or as a means to satisfy someone else's ego. All that does is it energizes the construct of time. All right? So you can customize it to your liking. It's also about choosing what's most exciting to you in this now moment. So if someone says to you, hey, why don't we go to Hawaii in a month from now? If you know for certain, beyond the shadow of a doubt, that that's something that you want to do, then that is the most dominant timeline. You have to remember all of our parallel timelines indwell this now moment. So there's always going to be a dominant timeline. You know how like some friends of yours have told you in the past, like, let's see each other next week. And you're like, that's because that's not the dominant timeline. That means that your higher self is going to need you somewhere else. Did you guys catch that? Your higher self is going to need you somewhere else, which is why you're reluctant to say yes. There are all these timelines that are brewing in your field, in the field of existence, and frequency does not lie. Frequency will always magnetize you, and you will always magnetize a frequency for the benefit of your expansion. So the reason why, if someone says, let's go for a hike next week, and you're like, is because the chances are, not always, okay, again, you may do that hike. This is not a limiting teaching. This is a very expansive teaching. Most of the time, it's because there's another timeline that you can't see, or another event that's going to happen that you can't see yet, that is going to call you there for your expansion. There is always a dominant frequency. That's why the universe is plotted, the universe is calculated. There are never accidents. You may get in a car accident and that sucks for you because your car just got bashed. Hopefully you're okay. But the people around you, how you deal with that situation, the dominant frequency doesn't lie. There's a reason why that's happening. It may be that you might go vent to your mom and your mom is tired of hearing you vent. And that's your lesson. And it's also her lesson. Like this is a quantum universe, you guys. Okay. So when I started living as a dot, it became very clear to me, oh my God, I still have some things in here that I didn't know that I had. And I also found that my guides were trying to catapult me to 5D. So they weren't allowing me to do exceptions. They were disallowing me from making an exception. Like, okay, maybe I'll do it next week. That's still vague. You have to live your truth. You can't be a fence sitter. You've got to either be a dot or not be a dot. But you'll find that if you're trying to be a dot and you say, and you still haven't learned how to speak your truth and own your truth and take that strong vibrational stance, someone may come along and they'll say, hey, let's do this again next week. And because there's still like a bit of a lag, meaning you haven't really anchored that in, you haven't really integrated the teaching, then you might say, yeah, we'll see. And that's still vague. And I went through that too. It's okay. It's part of you uninstalling these programs that are deeply entrenched in you. Okay? You have to understand that these 3D programs, the matrix programs, are deeply, deeply embedded in our bone, in our flesh, in our teeth, in our cheeks, everywhere. So again, I just want to reiterate, if you're a mom and you're like, well, I can't be a dot, I'm a mom, I have a kid to pick up from soccer at 4, cool. That child is part of your dot. I'm not saying stop being a mom. Of course, be a mom. This is about assuming responsibility. But you're not being responsible when you don't live your truth. That just hit me now. That's really good. That's what I love about Be a Dot is like it's constantly snowballing. If you guys look at my beginnings and then my webinar and then this, completely different, but they're all under the same umbrella. So I like what I just said. I said, being a creator being is about assuming responsibility. And when you don't live and own your truth, you're not being responsible. If you're a mom, you're being responsible by picking up your kid at 4 p.m. This is about us no longer allowing there to be blind spots. This is about us owning up to what we've created, even if you were unconscious when you did it, even if you got pregnant when you weren't awake yet, that was still your creation. And I have found that in this universe, everything that we do with our free will, okay, has ramifications, there's a cause and an effect. And even that, you could say it's a mistake if you got pregnant because you didn't wear a condom, but God, source will always work with that. And there's usually a positive outcome or silver lining with every one of those scenarios. But it's also responsible. It's also responsible to say, no, it was a mistake. Like, I should have worn a condom. So being multidimensional is about encompassing all of that. It's not about saying, oh, no, it wasn't a mistake. Yes, it was a mistake, and it happened, and I created it, and now I'm going to assume responsibility. Okay? So I want you to start seeing yourself as a satellite. How can your satellite, or how can your psychic antenna receive the highest frequencies without disruption, without interception, without distortion? By clearing out everything in your physical realm that keeps you anchored in a third dimensional or fourth dimensional reality. Okay? This is about feeling free and peaceful all the time. Feeling free and peaceful all the time. That's what the dot offers. Okay? You're just flowing with your universe. Now, from the higher dimensional viewpoint, being a dot is actually planning on steroids. It's planning on steroids. And I'll tell you why. Because now that I've plucked out all those unnecessary energies in my field, in other words, now that I've flushed out all of those astral entities or all of these parasites of all these thought forms that people have, you see, I've never had a problem with organizing things, but I found that people got addicted to it. They're like, oh, Phil, let's see each other in 2 days. Let's see each other in 3 days. And that became a lot of pressure for me. And I don't like that. Like I said in one of my Instagram videos, I don't do let's go to a movie next week. Like, I don't do that. Like, let's is me and my universe. That's it. That's all it is. It's me and my universe. This moment is all that exists. I'm here with you. I'm fully present. I'm also in the chat, meaning that even though this hasn't premiered yet, because I've really got rid of the gunk in my third eye, and my third eye is now working in coherence with my heart, they're working in concert with each other, I can be everywhere at the same time. That would not be as possible if I wasn't living as a dot, right? Because if I had all these expectations, oh, you need to be there at 6, oh, you have to go on this hike that you don't really want to go on, I would be thinking all the time, and my mind would always be active, whether I'm cognizant of it or not. I would always be bombarded by external thoughts. Can you grow through that? You can grow through anything, okay? You can go shoot heroin and find your mastery shooting heroin, okay? So hopefully we're past that now. We've crossed that marker where we understand that mastery is an inside job, and that even if you say yes to things that you don't want to say yes to, or even if you don't always speak your truth, you can still grow through that, because those thoughts are mirror reflections of things that you still need to clean up or adjust within your system. So we're clear? But we can skip that now. We don't need to suffer that much. All right? This is why when I meditate, my phone is on airplane mode. Because even if it's on Do Not Disturb and someone can reach my screen at a psychic level, that's going to interrupt my connection with my genius self, with my higher self. I kind of like genius self. People don't really use that much. But it's fitting. So the key with being a dot is to, first off, know that you can customize it, all right? The only reason that I went all out with it is because I was going to be teaching it. I didn't know that at the time, okay? But it was difficult for me to backpedal and go back to my old way of planning things. You have to understand, I was an entrepreneur years ago, and I was up at 6 a.m., I would go to bed at midnight and then do it all over again. I was doing sessions, going to homes, doing this, doing that. So I don't have a problem putting things in my schedule. But I found that I couldn't go back to that way of living or being or existing because being a dot was so peaceful, and it also showed me so much about the illusions that people are living under. It debunked the entire reality for me. People are really addicted to the next moment. People are really addicted to what's my purpose. People are really addicted to when's my twin flame coming back. People are highly addicted. They don't even realize it. They're like, no, I just like people. Are you sure? Because you might have a blind spot. And even though you think you're a people person and you love to be around family all the time, That might just be a program that's in your skin, that's in your body, that's in your blood, that you may be unaware of. I'm serious. So I'm not saying don't be with your family. I'm saying give it 1 week, try to say no to everyone, and let reality reveal to you what you've been unaware of. That was the purpose of being a dot, was to say no to everyone for a while, to say yes to me, to no longer feel obligated. And very quickly, it was revealed to me that people have so many unhealthy expectations. So many. And it dawned on me that I was living my entire life that way. And because I wasn't conscious of the activity that was taking place psychically, I was dumbing myself down. So being a dot was my way of saying I'm yanking all of these programs out of my operating system, and I'm going to purify my life. I'm going to trust in the God, in Source, in the Creator that's within me, in this intelligent force that's always guiding me, always making sure that I'm going to be at the right place at the right time. And so often we say, okay, let's do this next week. And maybe because you can't hear your higher self, you have no clue that you're not supposed to be there next week, which is why you had a shitty time at that party. Because maybe you were supposed to be at another grocery store meeting the love of your life. So being a dot is planning on steroids. Why? Because you're not interacting with humans anymore. You're interacting with all of your guides all day long. You're interacting with all of your parallel selves who might be sitting on the timeline of 2024 and are going to be asking you to step into that by preparing yourself, by training yourself so that you can become that. So you become highly psychic. Highly. Because there's no more plaque. I call it like plaque in your teeth. There's no more plaque on your teeth. All right? The other example I always like to use is, remember those Twizzler pull-in peels? You know, the licorice, the Twizzlers, the pull-in peel? They get bundled up, right? We don't want to live that way. We want to live as a dot that can teleport in and out of dimensions. So this facilitates you being able to communicate with other guides, with higher beings, with other selves, meaning other parallel yous, that are giving you instruction manuals as to what you need to do to prepare for that next thing. You become a magnetic being. That's what it is. And now you're merging yourself in all these timelines, and you're birthing all these realities, but you're not doing it accidentally. It's alchemy. All right? That's why I always say we don't depend on luck. We use alchemy because it's the truth. So again, the reason why I stuck to it is because I found that people weren't respecting me. They wanted more and more and more. It's like I would give them a finger and they wanted the whole hand. I'm giving you Monday and now you want Monday, Tuesday, Friday, Wednesday, Thursday. You want the whole thing. That's because people are still very much in bondage with very unhealthy things. They have codependent issues. They have abandonment issues. So they're always escaping what needs to be addressed. Always. They're always escaping what needs to be addressed by making more plans. Oh, I don't want to look at that. Let's go to the movies. Oh, I don't want to look at that. Let's go for that hike. Oh, I don't want to look at that. Let's make a plan. But the thing is, humans have no idea that they're avoiding something. They think, oh, this is my normal. I make plans. I do this, and I do this after this. And they just think that that's the way to be. And it's not the way to be. That's a way to avoid your beingness. If we started grasping this incredible, pure stream of intelligence within us, then we wouldn't need to constantly plan things. All right? My guide said you cannot make exceptions because we're going to teach you all the intricacies about this teaching. So I was like, what do you mean? But I love making money doing my sessions, and I love planning in advance, and I love doing this. They're like, nope, you cannot make exceptions, because when you make exceptions, there's a leak in your boat and you start to sink. So I found that when I was a dot and I said to one person, oh yeah, I'll make an exception. Why don't we see each other Tuesday? I kept inviting this contamination in my field because I wasn't really sticking to my guns. I wasn't really committing to it. I wasn't committing to it. And my life opened up like no tomorrow when I committed to it. I catapulted into 5D. Catapulted. And the other thing I love about being a dot is people can't really wrap their minds around it. And I didn't come here to be conventional. I came here to be unconventional. I have a friend that said to me the other day, I'm really loving living as a dot, but what's going to happen to me and my career in a few years? I'm like, see, you're not trusting enough. You're not trusting enough. You're thinking about other humans helping you. You're thinking about climbing the social ladder by making all these contacts, not realizing that the true contact is the angelic forces. The angelic forces can override this entire human existence because their vibration is way higher. And you have an archangelic aspect in the higher planes. This is what we need to do. And I'll tell you why. Because the more clicked in you are to this space, to this intuitive space, the more you can see what's coming. Now, you might say, well, I don't want to see what's coming. You may not always get the specifics, but you'll have an idea, like, I can't leave my house right now. Something's telling me no. That's because your light body is now running the show. Your light body is directing you every moment of the day. And your light body may be preventing you from getting in an accident. So a lot of people out there get themselves in trouble, and the reason for that is because their DNA is degraded. It's like an ant that's crawling on the floor that can't see what's above her head or above its head. It doesn't know if someone's going to step on it. That's how humans are. They have no clue what's going on with their reality because they've given so much of their power away. And think of it like this. Your fully activated DNA is your full power. All right? Most humans are operating a double helix or maybe 3 strands of their DNA. Where's the other 9 strands? It's the power that they gave away. It's the agreements that they've made with reality that are limiting them. It's all the stuff that's restrictive and regressive. So they keep themselves in a small container rather than really questioning everything. Like, what would happen if I said no to my mom? What would happen if I said no to this person? Okay? Are you willing to see? Are you courageous enough to see? Because again, this is not personal. This is not about people. It's not about humans. This is about energies. Everything is energy. All right? These are energetic constructs that enslaved you. And other humans may be host to those. So they might be hosting different energies that want to keep you enslaved or that want to keep you dumbed down. So our job as these rainbow warriors of light is, well, let me see what's still hidden from me. I promise you, and I've had thousands of people who applied everything I taught in the webinar. Thousands. All right, I think we sold like 28,000 copies of that webinar. It was insane. Thousands of people said to me, I cannot believe how much more psychic I am. I cannot believe how entrapped I was and I couldn't even see it. That's why everyone's always like the dot life, the dot life, the dot life, because it's an incredible, pure way of being and flowing. All right. I know that I like to meditate every day, so that's part of my plan, but I don't know what time I'm going to meditate because my light body is running the show. My light body might say, we need you to rest right now. My light body might say, we need you to go on YouTube. That's what happens. And there's such a huge abundance of creational energy that there's never shortage. All right, think of it like this. If you're always vibrating high, then you always have genius ideas. If you're always vibrating high, you're always inspired into action. So now just imagine if you always bring in this higher energy, you're like an energizer bunny. You're like a spiritual energizer bunny. That's why I'm able to do so much in such a small amount of time, because the inspiration comes from a high source of intelligence. I went to a party the other day with a few friends, and they didn't even really talk to the other people in the party. And at the end of the party, they're like, yo, let me get your number. Maybe we should link up sometime. Like, why? That moment was that moment. That moment was the universe expressing. Why do we have to control everything all the time? Like your universe will take care of you. You don't need to grab that person's number. Just trust the process. All right. So this video went a lot longer than I thought. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. All right. So the goal is to bring your psychic antenna back online. Now, a lot of people in this world are psychic. They might be like, ooh, that person has a bad vibe. But that's a degree of psychicness. There are different tiers of consciousness. If you go, oh, that person has a bad vibe, you might be picking up on truth. But the thing is, you saying that means that you're still judging them. You saying that means that you're still in binary. You're still in duality reality. So there are levels to this psychic game. Levels. You can have someone who's like, oh, I don't have a good feeling about this. But if they have fear in their system, then they may just be projecting. They think they're psychic, but maybe they're really just displacing their own fear onto you. So are they psychic? They might think they're psychic. They might be psychic to a certain level. But the thing is, being psychic can connect you to a myriad of timelines. They might be picking up on a timeline that's not going to happen for you. So they're missing accuracy. Okay? Being highly psychic is you don't have the filters anymore. It doesn't mean you're not flawed. I'm flawed. I make mistakes all the time. But when it comes to psychic information, I don't care if I don't like you. In that moment, I love you because you're giving me a chance to receive cosmic information. So I will always deliver the information objectively, whether I like someone or not. It's not about that. This is about entraining yourself with objectivity, with neutrality. People have a lot of dysfunctional entanglement. A lot. They get mad at each other because they're always expecting things from others. They get mad at businesses because they have a sense of entitlement. Oh, you should refund this after 31 days. No, the policy was 30 days. That's what it is. Like, we get mad at each other and we are so mean to each other because we haven't found the source of light from within. Being a dot connects you to that. It's a fast track into 5D. It cycles you out of linearity. It moves you into multidimensionality. Okay? This is one more thing I want to share about the dot. And this came to me a couple weeks ago. Sort of along the lines of what I told you, like it's always building upon itself. It's a quantum teaching. I saw how, when we drive, we wear a seatbelt for us, but we also wear it because we're being conscious towards others. We would never want them to get in trouble if our cars hit. That wouldn't be fair to them. That's because we're a one, we're a collective. This is about us having responsibility. I'm not responsible for you, but from another perspective, I am, because you are me. So if I treat you poorly, I'm not treating myself well. So when you go on the road and you drive and you wear your seatbelt, you're doing this out of consideration for the other people around you. It's also illegal if you don't, but that's besides the point. We do it because we don't want other people to get in trouble. This is about other people as well. My guide showed me how being a dot is a form of assuming the highest integrity, meaning that you are wanting people to get out of their unhealthy patterning. So it's almost irresponsible to keep planning things with them because that keeps them depending on external things. I know that's really deep. So for those of you who saw the webinar Be a Dot, I did not share this piece in the webinar, but when you make plans with other people and you're already awakened, you're not really helping them to awaken because now they're going to always look forward to seeing you. And now they're not being present with themselves and with their internal crystal technology. So you're not doing it to purposely awaken them, but there is a sense of integrity that we have to have in this world. And I believe that God, Source, Creator, wanted us to really get in tune with that source of intelligence. It wanted us to, because it knew that if we did, we would self-heal. All right, we're like reptiles. If our tails get cut off, it grows back again. God Source knew that we could youth ourselves, that we could live long lives. But the reason why we die so soon is because whether you're mindful or not, like you're always thinking about something outside of you. So that ages you. Every time you think of things that are going on outside, it ages you. It's costing you energetically. So your physical body degrades. So mindfulness is a practice of being connected from within, and not allowing outer distractions to keep you in that flow with your inner intelligence. But to me, a sin is like, and I'm not religious, but my definition of a sin is continually going against the alignment of what Source wants for you. Because you're trying to control everything. You're like, oop, I need to make this plan because I need to depend on others for energy. That's what's going on fundamentally. Is at a fundamental level, the reason why people bundle up is because they don't believe in the power that they hold from within. So the way they generate energy is, ooh, when I think about you and our dinner, I'm going to get excited. I'm going to generate energy. But can you see how that's still externally focused? How about generating it from within? So to me, a sin is like continuously disobeying your spirit when it's asking you to just trust it. You don't understand why you haven't launched your business yet? Trust more. Trust deeper. Do your work and you'll understand. Your universe may have something in store for you that will completely blow your socks off. And you'll never know that unless you give it a chance to show that to you. You have to give it a chance to show that to you. My friend said this to me also. He was like, what made you really commit to it? I said, because I saw how planning was a sin. And he's like, holy shit, that's deep. And I exaggerated it, but it's kind of true. Now, I do want to say this as well. If you do plan, if you have a job to go to, you can still be a dot within that. You can still be a dot within that. You can find that space from within, all right, connect, and you may have a 9 to 5. I was still a dot when I was working all the time. I was still a dot because I was present. But eventually I kind of minimized the load to the point now where I don't, my schedule is blocked out. No one can book me. And I love living this way because I never know what's next. If I had a session right now, I wouldn't be able to be on YouTube with you guys. If I had a session I booked 2 days ago, I would not be on YouTube. This is natural inspiration. It's organically driven. So I'm going to leave it at that. I have so much more to talk about, but that has nothing to do with the dot. But I'll leave it at that for now. There's more information on the dot. I can't cover it all because it's a quantum teaching. But if you'd like to see that, watch Be a Dot Beginnings and also my webinar on feelgoodlife.com/webinars or vimeo.com/feelgoodlife. Also, thank you for your donations. If you would like to make a donation, you can go to feelgoodlife.com/donate. And I highly appreciate that. Your support is incredible. And then last but not least, my face is about to pop up to subscribe. Please do so if you feel called to. If not, it's all good. I love you anyways, and I will see you in another version of the Now. Much love.